BSing with
Who?
BSing with
What?
BSing with Sean Kneese. BSing with
Who?
BSing with
What?
BSing with Sean Kneese.
All right, welcome to BSing with Sean K.
I'm your host, Sean Kneese.
For new listeners, what I do is I talk with people who live outside the box and provide a platform for opinions not often heard with the mainstream media. And what I mean by outside the box is people sort of pursuing unconventional or artistic career paths, eccentric characters with interesting stories to tell, people who are unusual in a good way.
Looking at these eyes, I see that they don't like me. Looking at those lies, I see why they don't like me. Looking at these streets, I see why they don't like me. Looking at these haters, boy, now you see why I am Viking. Why can't I be the same as you, player? Cause I got no chain, got no game, I look lame, got no fame, man, I'm just lame.
For this episode, this is episode 76, I'm going to play you a conversation I had with Mr. Glenn Berkenkamp. He is a musician, drummer. He also does some rhymes for his project Mdrn Vkng. Mdrn Vkng is his main project. And he talks a lot about Norse mythology, Viking history, personal issues, and he uses, the Norse mythology as a metaphor. The clip I played at the beginning was from his song "'Cause I'm Viking," and that's probably one of my favorite tracks I've heard from him. And he's of Norwegian descent, at least on his mother's side, I think is what he said. He goes into it in the interview or conversation. And he has an interest in Norwegian culture and Norwegian history, and he talks a bit about that in the conversation. And I've known Glenn for about 10 years, since I was going to County College of Morse right after high school, and we played in some bands together. We actually did a jam before the interview. He was playing some Insomniac AD songs with me. That's my music project, as I've mentioned many times. And we also just jammed out some other tracks. Here's a clip of that jam. That was him on drums. I was on bass and vocals, or just bass in that case. I did some vocals. And so it was a good conversation. He also is a beer enthusiast, a beer and mead enthusiast, and he's involved in the local New Jersey brewing scene. And he goes more into that in the interview. And yeah, not much else to say. I don't want to give too much more away, but here's the episode, and I hope you enjoy it.
I did it!
Now it's recording.
Now it's recording!
All right, now this is BSing with Sean K. Actually recording. Before we thought we were recording, but we weren't.
But we were not.
Yeah. This is Glenn Berkenkamp of Mdrn Vkng.
I am also the drummer of Zion and also the band In for the Night.
Nice. And we go way back.
Sean, we go way back.
2008.
Yeah,
2008, yeah,
10 years ago, man.
2007, Yeah.
Yeah, doing we did the Crimson Carnage. Remember we were doing
Crimson Carnage.
Yeah.
That was our thrash band.
Yeah.
Me and Justin Wuhad. Shout out to Justin Wuhad.
Yeah, shout out to Justin Wuhad.
Yeah, he's now all the way in Tennessee. So,
Oh, he is?
Yeah, I'm gonna see him probably at the end of November. So
Nice.
let's talk about that a little bit. CCM days.
Yeah, we were in the same
remember when we
in the same recording class. Yeah.
You remember the class and everything?
A little bit, yeah. It was Todd Collins. Yeah. Yeah,
Mr. Fiddler.
yeah.
You remember the argument I had with him about like death metal and.
Oh, I don't think so. No, that it was music
my
or something.
gosh.
And he
Yeah,
said,
no, he was just not a fan of death metal, and I was like. But music is universal. Like, come
Yeah.
on, man, I don't diss you and your fiddling, you know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't get along, but through then, you and I had made mutual friendship, and we've been in bands from such. We've been like what, three projects.
Yeah, and when you were drumming in the band Nemesis Complex I was in, but you were drumming in that after I left.
Well, technically, I did do a.
Oh yeah, we did do one.
You,
Yeah, we did Bretard.
With you and Eddie, yeah, I did Bretard and what originally became Drone Killer, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
I think so. And that was who was recording us? Do you remember who was recording? Was that Jer?
I think so. Yeah.
Trinka?
And then Jer ended up replacing. Yeah.
But I mean, well, there's also Josh. Josh was also playing bass in the band too.
Yeah. Now you're in the band Zion.
Yes, he and I
yeah.
are in the band Zion together. Shout out to Josh, Mr. Anderson. He's been getting me into shows for Mdrn Vkng as well. It's so weird how everything is so interconnected, you know?
Yeah.
We all
yeah.
started from even the area you're in, you know, Chatham, Madison. Like I grew up there, around there too.
Yeah.
Skate park, you know?
Yeah.
It's so funny how we are.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've stayed more in touch with people from CCM. Like I went to 2 other schools afterward.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
What were those 2 again? What were those 2 other schools?
Kane, and then for my bachelor's, and then a couple of years later I went to Fordham.
Nice.
And I was staying in the city doing the Fordham.
Oh,
it was a
wow,
good experience.
great.
Yeah.
How was the city?
I liked it. It was definitely. I kind of want to move back there at some point, like
That
maybe
sounds
to
fun.
Astoria or Brooklyn or.
Story is fun.
Yeah, I like just being able to like take the train around different places. I mean, I don't mind
Okay.
driving as much, but
Okay.
it's like.
Yeah,
there's
I like
yeah.
it for the history part. Like
Yeah.
my degree after CCM, I got my degree in liberal arts at CCM, and I decided to stick with my history stuff because that's what I was really good at, and I was also doing history for my Norwegian family. You know, but no, not really. I do like Viking history and, as you know, Old Norse history and stuff like that. So I went to William Patterson and was helped by a company, not a company, but a group called Sons of Norway, which is basically, since my grandma's 100% Norwegian, they helped me along, not money-wise, but through referencing and through certain people to help me get into the college better. So shout out to Sons of Norway. They helped me get into William Patterson, and from William Patterson I got my degree in history. Supposed to get my degree in teaching, but we had a little bit of a problem with that, so I took my history degree.
So, how did you get into the Norse mythology thing?
So, originally I was raised, my grandma would always talk about Norway, where she's from, and I've been going there since I was around 10. But what really actually did it was, and I know it's corny, but when I started listening to Amon Amarth in my senior year of high school into CCM, that got me into Prosa Ida, which is the book you read for understanding mythology. And that's what got me into understanding my culture, where I came from, my raising, and which kind of brought into Mdrn Vkng being created. I went to Norway 4 years ago, and that's kind of where Mdrn Vkng decided to start and like was born there. So through my, I don't want to say religious because it's not really of religion like you would think nowadays, but more of my moral purposes, like something I find morally, I guess.
Like you like some of the moral principles that mythology
Yeah, I stick to what they call
yeah.
the nine truths, or the nine characters, 9 laws. Some of them, for example, is being a good person, being humble, not like, you know, of course, whenever you talk about Vikings, you think raping and pillage, but in that sense, you're not supposed to be raping and pillage. You're supposed to be going through life and being strong and surviving through it.
So you think that there's too much of a focus on like the negative elements of the old Viking religions and not
when
enough.
you look at the movies, what do you usually see in movies?
Like them
Usually
yeah.
they raid, they pillage,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But when you go over to Norway, you notice that a lot of them were more farmers, and more of the wealthier established kingdoms were the ones that were raiding, pillaging, more or less over in Denmark and Sweden too, you know. So my angle is, if you want to look at it, it's the opposite of Burzum. You know how Burzum's really into Odinism?
Yeah, and he took it as like a white supremacist direction.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm what I call the truer. You get it? Because Capone's true.
Yeah.
But it's truer, where it says you understand that blood is blood. When you pierce my skin, the color is what of my blood?
Red.
Any other color skin may have a different pigment, but when you cut through it, it's blood. It's red. That's not in a Viking Bible, but that's kind of like our way of code, is that you're supposed to respect those others in a way. Like you don't have to demand it, but you're supposed to learn how to respect each other.
Yeah, like get along in the same realm.
Yeah, or try to at least understand a moral ground, you know, because you know, I don't go around and tell people like how to be and act. You know, that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to understand people.
But it's like something you follow based on heritage, or
yeah, in a way. My grandmother is actually Unitarian. She's not actually Old Norse or like Norwegian pagan as it's generalized. She's more Unitarian, which is the belief of every religion being in coexistence. So what she taught me was at a very young age is to understand and try to respect or just understand people for who they are. So rather than looking at a person for being of color, of gender or something, I look at that person for their name and who they are, what they make of themselves. That's what my grandmother raised me under, and that's where Mdrn Vkng comes from, is the fact that I don't care what you look like. I want you to survive. I want you to survive your path and live as long as possible.
so like seeing people as individuals, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of complicated because there's political parties, there's certain just religious parties, things like that, where I don't really fit into the scheme of, because I like to view everybody, and it's supposed to be complicated.
And so you put that into your lyrics with Mdrn Vkng.
With Mdrn Vkng, it's a lot about the story of struggle and survival. I don't go around saying I rape and kill and pillage people, but I bring stories of my anxiety or of my dreams that, like, my brain interprets battles. And it's deeper than that. It's more usually like a dream before I have anxiety and I have to fight that anxiety. That anxiety will be a giant. And which brings me to my one song, Arrow Volley. That's me fighting my what I think is my eviler side or demonic side, I guess. And the whole lyric is based around me telling my evil side, fuck you. Is it okay if I curse?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's fuck you. It's about a mutuality.
So it's like viewing it from an allegorical, or metaphorical,
Metaphor, I guess. It's not. I don't put a big label on it because I kind of say it's a humanistic and very earthy. I don't try to bring in science as much because of where my raising is in Viking. I do, but I kind of bring everything into account, which is, it's easier to explain, but harder to show.
And music-wise, you add, like, hip-hop elements?
What I do is I take hip-hop, trap, and I mix it with death metal, grindcore, not really thrash, but that attitude in my vocals is kind of a thrashy attitude. When you get into my newer mixtapes, you'll notice that I go from very trap style beats, but I have very gutturals and death metal yells that kind of like the song Face Me Swine is Mot Make Sten, that's one of my newer songs. That one's called Face Me Swine. And the chorus is face me swine, come take us what's mine. Face me swine, your death is on the line. Which means, which is like basically like Vikings yelling like, haha, come at me. So that's like the whole point, but it's over trap. So it's like, even like people nowadays that like trap music and like death metal or like, you know, something a little bit heavier can get into my shit.
So you want like people with different tastes to enjoy?
Yeah, I don't want just trap. I don't want just like electronic death metals. I want everybody to try to be like, oh, cool, this guy makes this different music, you know? I'm not trying to be no Yoko Ono here, you know? I'm not trying, you know, some weird like, some random shit. Where it's like, okay, what is she doing? It's more of like mixing that Amon Amarth attitude, if in a way, because I'm not like them, but I have that same ideal almost. Because like I talk more about inner battles, like when you battle yourself, and like how Vikings like they dream and they're in battle, so it's like that almost. I don't talk about myself killing and stuff like, because that's not true. I try to stick to what Vikings call stories, and in hip-hop and rap, that's kind of against the bill, because in hip-hop you have to explain who you are, and trap you have to explain, yeah, like, I come from this, or like you'll hear guys like, yo, I push drugs, or like guys that are like, yo, I push music, I push beats, like, you know, stuff like that. So rather than me being like, yo, I'm in a gang or some bullshit like that, or like I'm like metaphysically like, yo, I'm hip hop. It's not like that. It's like, yo, I make music. It's got death metal, it's got hip hop, it's got trap music. It's different. I try to be different, but not as so how would you say, like about it.
Yeah.
You know.
And have you gotten to like playing live shows? What has been like the reception? Has it been like metal people?
It's been different reviews. My first show as Mdrn Vkng was at a strip club over in Pennsylvania. Yeah, Smiles or something, not Smiles, something like that. No, not Smiles. I don't remember. I do remember the girls' names though. It's Summer and Rain, and shout out to Young Keys, who was also rapping. And shout out to my vocalist Andy and my guitarist Jake. They both.
Oh, that wasn't. Oh, I thought that was you. Oh, so you
that was me. Yeah, that was me doing it. But that's Jake and Andy didn't know me as a drummer that time. They knew me as just as Mdrn Vkng.
Oh, okay.
So they all came to that show. It was a small show. Disaster Piece hooked me up. Shout out to Disaster Piece. He's another rapper. He hooked me up for that show, tried to get me out there because he heard my beats and stuff. And basically, I went from... my first song was Arrow Volley, which is like... It's a mix. It gives you that taste of hip-hop and trap, but then it cuts and it goes into death metal. So it's kind of like an introduction, like, all right, it's hip-hop, but it's also brutal. It's also death metal with it, too. So you gotta be ready. So... the people there, some, like, fewer people, also shout out to Neil Thani. He showed up before, too. He's originally from NJ Dots.
Okay.
He showed up as well, and the response he was telling me was that it was very mixed as well. 2 people got up and left because they thought that my gutturals, my brutal vocals, were a little too heavy. So they up and left outside. Everyone else was like headbanging and like dancing and stuff like that. So it was weird. I both drove people out like Vikings, but I also kept people in entertained like Vikings. So that show was interesting. I didn't have a huge follow-up, like it wasn't a lot of people, but it was still like 10, 15 people. It was cool.
I guess you want like a mixed reaction because you want to feel like you're doing something.
I want a mixed reaction, but also I want to see people's reaction in general. I think it's funny when some people are like, oh yeah, you fucking have a death metal, oh you fucking blast beats, yeah. You know, but then I also have some hip hop heads that are like, yo, your rhymes are pretty cool, like you can spit pretty well. You know, I was like.
And were there some people like, hey, you shouldn't be mixing these two or whatever?
Luckily, no. But I also, Mdrn Vkng has this attitude. I have this attitude where it's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna write it.
Yeah.
You know, that's my style. It's like, I don't give a fuck. If it's kind of goes down to Vikings as well. We don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Vikings didn't give a shit.
Not many, no, because it was either life or death or mead.
So is this kind of like are you kind of like taking it back, I guess, like showing like a more positive side to the Viking culture, like Norse mythology?
I guess positive. I'm really trying to establish the difference because a lot of people confuse Saxons and certain Germanic groups with Vikings. And there is
like you brought up Skyrim before, like we were talking about. We were doing that. Skyrim belongs to the Nords, the video game Skyrim. I mean, I'm sure people most
that's
people
like
know.
Danish folklore mixed with like Saxon folklore, and it's like I get the references and stuff, and I do like it. I do cringe a little bit because I'm like, we don't really like have dragons per se. We have one dragon. It's a snake, and it's Jormungand.
Yeah, because that was more like the English with the dragons.
That was the whole English 12th, 13th, and 14th century that they kind of like, the Viking horns.
Yeah.
And by the way, we don't wear horns. We drink out of horns. You never trust a person. That's why you have a horn, because you'll never set it down. It'll always fall. So you drink out of a horn. No one will spice, that's why.
Oh, so that's the
that's something I say live.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
Yeah, that's something I say live.
Because that's,
I go, people, by the way.
So that's why they have it, so they never put their drink down?
Yeah.
So nobody,
Yeah. It's a trust. It's a trust. And if you look at the person, you're supposed to look at the person when you drink. You're supposed to chug the whole thing. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, when I go live, I have my own bit, kind of like an attitude, but I look up to Yona Heg a lot, the vocalist of Mdrn Vkng, so I kind of have like his body like attitude where I'm like, yes, I'm here to give you entertainment, but also show you I am not afraid.
Nice.
So that's like the whole Mdrn Viking attitude.
Yeah, and so what do you think of like so is like I guess like is Vikings, the show Vikings, like accurate with this? Or
I appreciate that show. I like it to an extent. Rollo is a hard mythology because there's three different stories. There's a Danish story, there's a Swedish story, and a Norwegian story that I know of. I bet you there's probably a Finnish version or whichever. But the Norwegian one I know is that he's a great king that took over Denmark and most of Scandinavia and was like really hard to kill. Like he was supposed to be gifted by Thor. And that's what I grew up like knowing. In the show, it doesn't really show that, but it does show certain stories that connect to it. Like Rollo and Ragnar. When I say Rollo is a king, it's supposed to be Ragnar. Like in the show, Ragnar is the king and ruler. But in certain stories, Rollo is actually like the ruler, and Ragnar is kind of like not really the name.
Because I know there was a historical Rollo though, right? But Ragnar was just a myth.
Is a myth, but also historically, like there's certain tales. Where I went into Aalborg, Denmark, the historians that I conversed with were more of talking about like Rollo and Ragnar being kind of like brothers in a way. But what's cool about the show is that it kind of shows more of their battle ideals, which is kind of true. Well, not kind of true. I'm going to say it is true. The way they fought and the way they plotted and all that was very, very advanced in their times.
So I guess what's the next step for this project?
For Mdrn Vkng, originally I was working on... originally I was doing another mixtape, but then I lost my grandfather and I lost my best friend, and I had no real motivation at that point to kind of like write. I was kind of mad and drinking a lot of mead, as you can see up there. So I took a step back and then I started writing again. And as I started writing again, my laptop crashed and I lost all my songs. And I was heartbroken.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But one day, back in the summertime, we had a huge storm and all the power went out. And I just got mad and I was like, fuck it. And start over. So I took the laptop, got it fixed, and just started writing again. So I'm trying to put out another mixtape soon. I'm just more focused on writing this myself. The beats are going to be made by me, and then I'm going to try to mix and master it myself. All the vocals are going to be by me, mix and master that as well. So I do ask, like, people that are waiting for this, I do ask them a little bit of time, and I thank them for their patience. But this one's going to be like a mixtape. I don't want it to be like an EP or an album, just another mixtape, something small. And it's going to be my next step into the whole trap metal mix.
Yeah, and that always sucks when like you lose something you worked on.
Yeah, you know, I had over 40 different beats I made, different songs. When I say beats, I mean like drum beats over melodies and stuff like that. And I would just sit here and get drunk and play with my other producer, King Moon, 3 King Moons. He and I would make all these songs and try to rap over it. And then whatever ones I liked, I put on. King Moon also has a SoundCloud. It's a little hard to find because he tries to stay under the radar a little bit. But in his, he kind of mixes, he mixes like 80s synth pop, and he puts trap over it.
Oh, okay.
So he took like Phil Collins and he made a trap beat over it.
Oh, nice.
It's cool, yeah.
It's called King Moon on SoundCloud.
King Moon. It's said 3 times. It's a little hard to find, but I promise you'll find it. He also did a Christina Aguilera spoof, where he did I'm a Genie in a Bottle, but he took the melody and he put a trap beat over it, so it's pretty cool to check out. But that's where he and I started writing with Mdrn Vkng. I write lyrics and whatnot, but he kind of like works on the melodies of each of my songs.
And you mentioned the mead. You said that your interest in like the mead and
yes, I grew up drinking honey wine. For those that are Norwegian, Mjorda or Mjord. When I was like 15 into 18, and then when the whole craft beer started, I felt more comfortable like drinking mead because everybody else is into like the craft, so I can just stick to tradition. I've aged and made mead like once before in Norway because I went to 4 years ago, I went to Viking's farm, Viking farm, which is like this couple lives in the original ways. They make their clothes, they do everything themselves, like all Viking tradition. And from there I kind of like was inspired by it.
Nice.
And that's where I started like making like mead and stuff like that was from them.
And you said you're involved in like the beer community.
The New Jersey beer community. I'm not as heavily as involved as like brewers and things like that, but I have a strong opinion and I really love the community that's here in New Jersey. It's pretty supportive. We got our New Jersey attitude.
Yeah.
but they'll support you. They'll help you find a brewery or help you like if you're.
So what's exactly like people together who just have a passion for brewing?
People over New Jersey that are passionate in beers, brewing, stuff like that. You got some home brewers. You got some brewers from like more established breweries like Kane and things like that show up, and that's where I am into as well. So you're also doing 2 other music projects, right? Or? Yes. So along with drinking and whatnot, my other band, In For the Night, plays for like jazz bars and stuff like that. And this one's gonna be short because we don't have anything recorded just yet. But we come through. We play a few songs that are jazz inspired and kind of like hardcore inspired. Like if you listen to the band Chon, some people say we remind them of Chon a little bit, mixed with a little bit of like progressive rock. And then we come out of nowhere with some death metal and like gent and like some other stuff that like kind of like makes people go, wait, what? We played over at Paulie's before, I think, or this Irish bar in Booton. And we have a song called The Metal Song, and literally it's him strumming a few chords that are nice and like it feels like you're on the beach, and then all of a sudden I simple hit, it stops, and all of a sudden he just plays death metal. He's like, "Hey Glenn," I go, "What, Mike?" He goes, "It's time for some death metal." I go, "You're
That's
right."
the jam band you were talking about.
That's it for that, and that's pretty much our premise. But my other band and my like the one I'm more like established with is Zion. Zion is me, Andy Stanfield, Jake Stanfield, and Josh Lewis, and we play like we mix between sludge metal, hardcore, and like a little bit of taste of death metal, I guess, but more of the hardcore and sludge side. We get a lot of like good like old sludge, like cathedral feel, and like we also have like an Alice in Chains feel sometimes. But like we kind of have like an aggressive attitude, and people are starting to like it a lot.
Nice.
We have a show this week.
Thursday, you said, right?
Thursday, yeah, Boon Tunes.
Yeah, and then you're doing the
With,
Mdrn Vkng.
Yeah,
Saturday.
that's after. Yeah, that's Saturday. But we're playing with a good band called Dynacide, which are a cool mathematical band from like metalcore from like Florida. They're really cool. They're a bunch of cool guys. I chilled with them and hung out with them after shows, and they're really nice guys. And that show is going to be a lot of fun. People got to come out and see us because Zion, we throw down every time. Headbang. I broke 2 of my cymbals before. We're crazy live. People call me Animal. You know, it's a lot. It's worth seeing us live. And I know we're just like young and starting out, but a lot of entertainment to show.
Nice. So what do you think of is there a good music scene here in New Jersey? I mean, I know it a little bit. Yeah.
I do like the music scene here. It was weird because I was originally in a slam band called Nothing Is Sacred, and that was in the scene of New York, New Jersey. And that slam scene is fun. Like slamming death metal is so much fun. Like cool guys. I get to blast and play my death. You know, play those dun dun da dun 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 dun. You know, it's a lot of fun, but I kind of like the point where we are with Zion with that community more, because it's less from the city but more locally concentrated. You know.
Yeah.
I kind of want to grow from this area here and not New York. You know, I'm not from New York, so I'd rather grow from where I am from. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
So but you still want to like play in New York?
Oh, yeah, I want to play everywhere. I want to play everywhere. Anybody.
But you kind of want to establish yourself like where you are, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I want to establish from here and then go on, you know.
So it could be like, oh, that band from New Jersey.
Yeah, or
like,
Zion from New Jersey. You know?
Yeah.
That's the way it is. That's like in our how to find us is Zion Band NJ. It's in it, you know.
Yeah, grow where you're planted, kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there did you cover everything with the brewery stuff, or was there anything else you wanted to add?
Oh, yeah. You know, recently they had a ruling by the ABC that we turned over, which I was very happy about, because what's cool about this scenery is that like some of the breweries are trying to work with bars and trying to work with brew pubs to both sell their beer and also provide beer as well for that restaurant, so the restaurant could make money too. And I feel like certain restaurants weren't really a part of that. They weren't really a fan of it. And I don't want to say it's like made me mad, but it kind of made me confused, because in a business, wouldn't you want to help someone else and make your own money as well?
Yeah.
You know, that would seem like more better than just being snobbish, you know, come to my bar, but drink this kind of beer only. You know,
so they're like cracking down, they're like making a lot of restrictions? Or?
Well, the ABC was starting to make some rules like you couldn't bring dogs in, or you can't feed or bring food in, or stuff like that. I'm sure if you check the New Jersey craft beer page, you'll find some of the laws that they were trying to impose. And
because I know the town I grew up in before Chatham, New Providence, for the longest time, I think they just recently had liquor license, but I think it was for religious basis, because it was like a heavy
New Providence, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't allow alcohol in the town for like the longest time.
That usually is the case sometimes in certain towns. You'll have what they call dry towns, or
usually it's for like a religious reason.
Usually a religious purpose and things like that, which I understand, but you have to also understand it's a two-way street in this world.
Well, I have no problem with them like someone personally believing in that for themselves, but didn't force something because of your religion. I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you don't live on a two-way street, then what do you like? How do you go about your business? Because me, I try to, like I said, with Viking terminology and the way I'm raised, it's kind of like I have my perspective, but I also have the other perspective, and you have to kind of, you know, try to understand both. And with certain people, with certain religious movements, they would try to just invoke their religious beliefs over understanding another.
Yeah. So is there anything else you want to do with like the Norse history, like?
Well, what I do right now is I'm a history for my family. My family in Norway, we have a farm called Jusnes. It is 20 minutes out from Kristiansand, Norway, which is at the tip of Norway. And what I do is I talk about my family's history. My great-grandfather of the Hulta family also was from the Olsen family, who were connected with the Jusnes farm. So what I do is basically talk about my side of the family. There's 9 of us, 9 different families. I'll show you a picture of the family portrait of us all at the I actually still have the picture of the farm. I go there every 4 or 5 years because I'm not made of money, but I want to see my family out there, so I try to go as much as I can. And recently, my grandma, my Oma, or bestemor, as I call her, we brought back these pajamas that were worn by her great-grandparents in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
And they were brought back overseas. They're from the 1400s, actually 1450 to be exact.
Yeah.
And I have the study and everything about it. That's kind of the things I do. Our farm is recognized by the Norwegian government as a historical site. So we don't live on it, but we show what it looked like at the time. And here's a small picture of my family tree, just from my family is under there. That's not even my dad, it's my grandma. So this is the originals, and this is the.
But are both sides of your family Norwegian, or is it all?
My dad's.
Okay.
It's my dad's. I'm a mutt. I'm Native American, German, Norwegian, Italian, and English.
Nice.
But
what tribe? Because I have a bit of I have a Cherokee like great grandfather.
Oh, my great grandmother Dorothy Briggs, originally Dorothy Carter. She then, I don't know what her original name was, but she's Penobscot. They're from Maine. My mother's side is Briggs family, and they're not huge, but they were originally well established there in like oil, and they made a good chunk of money.
Nice.
And then they came down to New Jersey, and kind of the chunk of money kind of went away.
Yeah, but that's neat. Like you're in touch with the relatives over there in Norway.
Shout out to all the Penobscots, by the way. Mdrn Vkng has a song that's called "The King's Funeral Pyre," and the middle part of it where I'm yelling is kind of like me yelling in a way to like resonate through my whole family. Kind of, I don't know how to explain it.
Well, like a chant that kind of like goes through all the heritage.
It's a chant of your heritage. So it's a chant of like being Norwegian, being German, being Native American, and it's just me trying to connect to all that stuff. That's why I have that, and I would love to go over to Maine, and I actually plan on studying more about that.
Yeah. I just recently was learning about my my mother's side of the family. We didn't know for
Cherokee?
No, my dad was my dad's mother's side. My dad always was. My dad's been telling me about that for a while. Like that, Chief Doublehead. He's kind of notorious. Like apparently he was like a traitor, considered a traitor by the rest of the Cherokee.
Yeah, see, Penobscots aren't really like the warring type. Most of them are known for basket weaving and making bows and archery. So they weren't really, like, my grandma, she married a British man. Like my great grandmother originally.
And she was Pennocky or
Penobscot.
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 Yeah.
It's
my bad.
all the way
Any Penobscots out there?
It's all the way up in by Augustus Maine, and yeah, she married and then they came down here. Here's the farm, Portsmere, in Norway. This is what I do basically.
Nice.
I talk about the family and what it looks like and stuff like that. My dad, that's Denmark, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but are they like treated good there, like the farmers, like the working class? Like I don't know much about Norway.
Oh, Norway. So there's kind of like a separation, I guess. Not really separation. It's a little weird. When you get into the cities like Oslo and stuff like that, it's very rich in culture, but They have a lot of like, not prisoner of wars. People were kicked out of their countries, kind of, that are coming in, that are more of Arabic, Muslim, and stuff like that. And it's funny seeing Norwegian farmers trying to get, well, not farmers, but people who live outside the city more, getting used to it because they're so used to just being on a farm. It's like, what are they doing here? Oh my gosh. I never saw this before. So it's very interesting to see, in Kristiansand, it's a city, kind of a city, but you see kind of like a cultural divide almost. You see some of the old Norwegian parts where it's like mom and pop shops, stuff like that. But then you also see certain like quickie marts and like well, there they don't have like, you know how we have like quick check and stuff like that. They have stuff called like Joker, which is kind of like a convenience store. And that
Joker means something different in Norwegian?
No, it's just Joker.
Okay.
I don't know. It's like their way of trying to connect it to American. I don't know. I don't really know. It was fun. But you notice that it's not really Norwegians working there, but more of people that are like Arab or Muslim and descendants of that, which I have no problem with, you know, but with them it's a change. It's weird.
Well, you mean like used to things being a certain way, and then
because a lot of them, like I said, are used to living on like a farm.
Well, that's even the way it is in America a lot. You know, like people in the city are usually more used to like diversity, or even an area like this.
Think of it this way: instead of like the whole United States is like just Norway that's getting used to. I'm not saying trying to, because what I'm talking about is more people that are away from society.
Yeah.
Like I have family that live up in a fucking shack up in Norway. They just live up there. Like.
So you mean it's even more rural than rural here?
Usually some of them.
Okay.
I'm not trying to make it like big, but it's when you go there, you see there's a little bit of difference between a Norwegian and someone who's living there that's not Norwegian, and like a tourist. Like there's 3 differences usually you see. But their Norwegian government is starting to. What I'm noticing is that they're starting to help with whoever comes in that needs help and stuff like that.
Yeah, and what about like the working classes from Norway? Do they feel like they've been left behind, or they feel, because I hear like a lot of good things about the economy there, that they have like a good education system.
Yeah, they have they have a really good education. From the working class, because my uncle was a working class, also is a lot military based, because in Norway you have to spend 2 to 3 years either in the Navy or Army, and a lot of those working class come from there. So they go from like the Army and Navy, and then they go into working jobs, you know. So really, what they're more worried about is trying to reshape the city since World War II. World War II kind of kicked their ass for a while, because it's a lot of just not even like trying to rebuild, but just trying to reestablish things.
Because of bombings, or?
No, not bombings. It's just when the Nazis like invaded this stuff. Everybody, like my grandma, was noticing that people were more skittish over everything. You know, there was also like big shootings in Norway before there were problems, and you kind of notice like the Norwegian government still is a little skittish, and it's a reflection from like, you know, World War II and things like that.
Yeah.
But if you go there, I recommend going there. It's a little expensive, but fun people, a lot of fun. I have a bunch of stories to tell you too from Norway that are funny.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the good thing is you go to one European country, you can just take the train to the others.
Well,
too,
yeah. Norway's not European though.
Oh, okay.
They don't
consider that?
I'm going to say that, yeah. Norway is of its own. Sweden, Denmark, even Denmark, because Denmark's in Europe. Denmark feels different from Germany, things like that.
Yeah. Oh, so Norway doesn't consider itself like part of Europe? It's like its own...
It's Scandinavia.
Oh, okay.
Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, and Iceland. I mean Greenland, but you know what I'm saying. Wherever Leif touched, I guess, or the Vikings touched, is kind of like their whole group together.
So, I guess any other things you want to add, like any final thoughts?
Yeah, Mdrn Vkng is totally against neo-Nazis and any type of white supremacist groups that have taken our symbols.
Because I guess that's what a lot of people associate it with.
Well, that's what drove Mdrn Vkng to start rapping and stuff, because I was just sick of seeing these fucking Odin symbols and guys using them as hate, when the real Odin symbol means wisdom. It's like, I grew up because I have the Odin mark on my arm. I have that Odin O right there.
Oh no.
But they put wings on it. They put these two little things.
Oh, like to be like the German Nazi, yeah.
And that's kind of disgracing, like my, So I don't. If I ever see any type of like neo-Nazi at my show or shit, I'm gonna headbutt them. Straight up. I'm just tired of it. Like, give me back my goddamn symbols. Leave us alone. Like, they even use like Mjolnir.
Would you punch Richard Spencer a second time if you saw him, or? No, probably not him, right?
It's not the Viking way. If anything, I would challenge him to a duel. It's a Viking way. You don't just punch somebody.
Yeah, and he'd probably be like, a duel? Why do I want to do a duel?
But Mdrn Vkng is kind of like aggressive towards that, because like with nowadays with those Trump rallies and Democratic and Republican whole banter, Mdrn Vkng is just in the middle. I don't want any type of like racial hate, segregation, shit like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't belong in my throne, as I say. Doesn't belong. We all are blood by blood.
So I guess it's like you're taking it back. That's the phrase they use for it, right? Like taking it back.
Yeah, I'm taking it back. Yeah, I said that before too on my Facebook a bunch of times. I'm taking back the symbols and shit like that. No more.
Well, the Nazis didn't only ruin Norse culture. They also took they ruined the Hindu symbol. The swastika was
the swastika as well, and I'm sure they used a bunch of Buddhist shit too. Adolf Hitler was fucking weird, and Goebbels and them were fucking oddballs.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandpa is born and raised in Germany, and unfortunately, he was drafted by the Nazi army, but he didn't even serve because he was just, no, fuck this. So the Russians invaded, and before he could even like do anything militarily, kicked him out. So my grandpa went back to Germany, burned his uniform, and just became a citizen. And he would tell me some stories of shit that's just, and it kind of fuels Mdrn Vkng.
Nice.
Yeah. And rest in peace to my grandpa, who just passed too, by the way. But yeah, Mdrn Vkng is about survival of life. That's the main point. You're living a life that you have a path of, or the path you choose, and you're supposed to survive and fight that. You're not supposed to give up or,
So it's like perseverance, kind of.
Yes, that's the code of Mdrn Vkng in my music. My drumming in general.
And this is kind of an interesting thing that came to me. Do you think? Like kind of like these deities from these different things could kind of like? I mean, I don't know if I don't really believe like they actually exist like as different deities, but like could they like coexist? Like coexist.
I feel like certain like what in mind like Odin and those. I feel like they could, in a way. Because you always read tales of Odin becoming a human or an animal and coming down into society and stuff like that. I kind of feel like that's a connection between human and what they think of as what is going on around them. So rather than like say you're in the forest and the forest catches fire, to an Old Norse or Norseman, oh, Surtur's here, or Surtur has stricken down, Surtur's the fire god. So it's kind of like what is going on, they interpret as a deity almost. So that's the kind of way, like, if a hurricane came, I would say, Ula is here, or the god of wind would be here. But I'm not saying there's a fucking guy standing out there who's like, I'm god of wind. No.
It's like a symbolizes part, yeah.
It's kind of like a symbol.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the being itself.
Yeah.
The wind itself.
Do you think like there's like a kind of like a coexistence like from the different traditions? Because like all like the Hindu gods, like there's maybe those energies and then
like
there's
Shiva
the Norse. Yeah.
In a way, I kind of see what I call a universal approach to it. There's people who believe that Christ like exists and things like that, and I can understand that, and I could believe as well. But I kind of feel like they're putting more of a religious definition to it. Like they're trying to definitely prove like certain things, and like with me, it's not like I'm trying to prove to you that my gods exist. I'm just trying to show you what I see and what I believe, rather.
Nice.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah, like how it feeds into like your personal
interpretation or my perspective of it, rather than enforcing it.
Yeah.
It's not the real Viking way. The real Vikings, if you ever meet a real shaman, which I do recommend doing because it's the coolest thing ever. It's really a trip. Like I saw a birthing circle, and I saw goat's blood and shit like that. It was cool. But if you talk to them, they're not gonna be like giving you a whole saying from the Prosa Edda where it's like they're gonna talk about like Jotunheim or the layers of the giants and shit. He's just gonna talk to you about what you see or what affects you. You know, it's very interesting.
Nice. And
but this isn't like, I'm not speaking like Wiccans or pagans. It's more like traditional Norwegian Viking culture. You have to go to Norway and see it to see what I'm talking about.
Oh, so it still exists like from all those years back.
What I call in the woods, in the forest, yeah. Like there's certain families that just live that way because it's just easier for them to. They'll drive a car like here with Amish and like that.
Yeah,
like they'll drive a car and things like that, but they stick to old practice, old religions.
Interesting, yeah.
Eventually, when I'm older, I want to kind of do that too, and either
like as a way to kind of like settle down and stuff.
Yeah, me when I'm going to my dying ages, I kind of either want to go back to Norway or maybe go up to Vineland in Canada, you know, and
just kind of like live in the woods and do the whole pagan thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I'm married and still with you know kids and stuff, I'll be with my lady. But if I'm by myself in the end, I'm probably just gonna go up there and die in the woods somewhere. But hey, I accept my death. I accept my fate. So.
Yeah. Well, I guess you gotta go out sometime. It's
well, look at it this way. Would you rather sit there worrying that you're gonna die, or would you rather worry about what you're gonna do like next and the next day?
Next day, I guess. Yeah.
For me, when I became a diabetic, I was diagnosed at the age of 21, and that's when I switched to that whole Viking mentality. Is because I felt what in Viking culture is the Valkyrie's grasp, which is where you're in a near-death situation and usually it's towards the end of it, like where you may die. I felt this very big glow around my body. I'm not saying it was a presence or anything, but just this glow that woke me up out of my diabetic coma almost, and I felt more attached to my Norwegian and Viking ways from there.
So it's like becoming like more spiritual. Like
I just don't like go around going, I'm the fucking Viking.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not. It's all kept in my head and stuff like that. And when people want to talk about it, you know, in a mature way where it doesn't sound like I'm bragging or, you know, making people try to like believe me.
Yeah. So there's like a peace in it, even though it's like a warrior, I guess, kind of.
It's a warrior mentality, but like, you know, even when Vikings say you have to die and go to Valhalla, you're also allowed in Valhalla if you struggle and live through that struggle in life. Like, my grandma says that I fought my diabetes, and that's how I came back, is I fought out of it. So in a way, I am fighting. It's just I don't necessarily see myself dying by a blade or by guns. Well, nowadays, as Mdrn Vkng, as I say when I'm on stage and being Mdrn Vkng, I don't see myself getting shot or stabbed and shit and being like, yo, this is how I'm going now. No.
I'm going better to like die in the woods, going out in the woods.
I'm just gonna go die out in the hellfire, if anything. You know, it doesn't matter how I die. I'm not afraid of it. That's the whole point.
So, well, I think this has been a good conversation. Yeah.
And it's great to catch up, too.
Yeah, man.
All our history and past.
Yeah, I think it's the first time. Well, I saw you like a couple of years ago. Like 2 years ago,
yeah.
That's when you first told me about the Mdrn Vkng. And we just did a jam before this, so.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if you want to. I've talked about Insomniac AD a bit on this show. Like, if you want to do like some live shows or like record drums for television, I'll post like a clip of that jam we did, too.
Sure, man, or whatever.
And some of your other music.
Yeah, make sure you check out Zion. Get ready for some Mdrn Vkng stuff, and if you're ever in the areas of Morris County and go to and you hear about In for the Night playing, come through. You're gonna be entertained.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, so that about does it for today's episode of BSing with Sean K. And not a lot else for me to say. That was a fun conversation, and yeah, keep updated. Definitely keep updated with Mdrn Vkng and his other projects if you can. And also, if you want to keep updated with future episodes of this podcast, go to bsingwithseank.blogspot.com, and there's a link to my Twitter, my Facebook, my YouTube, and everything else. And that about does it for today's episode. I'll catch you on the next one.